Folks, it's time. The official Benchwarmer brand quarterback tier list. The most accurate quarterback tier list in all the land, as long as you don't look too hard for other ones. I realize that even though I talk a lot about NFL quarterbacks in all my videos, I've never really told you guys outright what I think of each and every one of them. So I figured I ought to do that. And what better way than a good old-fashioned tier list? Before we get started, I do want to mention that I'm officially partnered with Jack Links. They'll be sponsoring this video and several others going forward. So pick up some Jack Links meat snacks today and tell them Brand sent you. They probably won't know who I am, but you should still say it. All right, let's get into the video. You'll see the tiers we're working with here are Mahomes, Elite, Almost Elite, You're Not Upset, High Upside but TBD, You're Kinda Upset, No Thanks, and Days Are Numbered. I think these tiers are mostly self-explanatory, but if they're not, you'll understand them more as we go. And just for clarity's sake, I am recording this video after week 6 of the NFL season, but I'm going off a full body of work, trying not to do the recency bias thing. So this is hopefully a tier list that will stand the test of time, at least this season or for a few months. But starting with Josh Allen, we're putting him in the elite tier. I mean, if you've ever watched this guy, you know he's elite. If you've watched him and you don't think he's elite, get your eyes checked. He's just a notch below Patrick Mahomes, but who isn't at least one notch below Patrick Mahomes? That's why the guy has his own tier. What'll be interesting is how we end up ordering these guys in the tier below Patrick Mahomes, because there's a lot of disagreement on how QBs like 2 through 6 actually stack up behind him. So that'll be something to watch for as we go through this tier list. But one guy who's not in that conversation is Mac Jones, who I'm gonna put in the You're Kinda Upset tier. Now, this bums me out because look, I'm a Patriots fan. I've got a Mac Jones jersey in my closet over there. I've seen this guy play really well as recently as this season, the 2023 season. Early in the year, he looked good, and then it just all kind of came crumbling down, and now odds are the Patriots will move on from Mac Jones after this season. But the reason I'm not putting him in the flat out, no thanks or your days are numbered as a starter tier is because I do think he can be a successful quarterback. He just needs to have the right weapons put around him. The Patriots just have no semblance of the right weapons around him, especially with the offensive line. So I do think he could still succeed as a starter here. He's just, not your first choice or your 20th choice. Tua Tagovailoa. Now this might be controversial. I'm going to put him in the You're Not Upset tier. Some may believe that's a little low. I think that, context is so important in the NFL, right? And this isn't to completely discredit him for having good receivers like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I'm just saying that all the quarterbacks I'm going to put above him on this tier list are guys who I think would succeed as well, if not better, given the same system and the same receivers. Tua's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. He's super accurate. He's come a long way, but I just don't think he's quite as good as some of these guys. And look, I think if you put him on, say, the Patriots or a lesser team, we would not even be having him in these conversations with some of the more elite talents. Aaron Rodgers. Now this one will be interesting. The Jets are one of only 2 teams on this tier list, along with the Cardinals, who I have more than one quarterback for, because I wanted this to be all the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, right? So including the guys who the teams would have gone in with as their starter if they could have chosen, the other one being Kyler. Point is, we've got 2 Jets here. Rodgers is the first one, and I'm going to put him, weirdly enough, in the almost elite tier. I know it's weird to put him there because he's been definitely elite for his entire career, basically, but it's hard to tell. We don't know how much he has left. He had an underwhelming year last year with the Packers, and we wanted to see what he could do with the Jets with a receiver like Garrett Wilson on a team that was expected to contend, and then he tore his Achilles and is out for the year. Or might come back because the sound of dolphin noises is magically healing him. I don't really know what's going on there. But I'm going to put him in almost elite because, I know he still has elite traits in him. Obviously, he's been an elite quarterback in his career. I just don't know quite how much he has left. So almost elite for Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, his buddy Zach Wilson, look, again, recording this after week 6, he's actually played well recently, but I'm still putting him in days are numbered. I don't think Zach Wilson is a long-term starter in the NFL. I think he could have a potentially long career as a backup, but he's not a guy that most teams are going to want starting for them. Joe Burrow is going in the elite tier, and I'm actually going to put him above Josh Allen. This was my take before this season. I mean, Joe Burrow played so well last year while Josh Allen was a little bit mistake prone, and I'm just not willing to take that many points away from Joe because of a calf injury that's obviously limited him this year. But again, you're really splitting hairs between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. You've got an elite quarterback regardless which one you'd rather have. So both of them definitely in the elite tier. I would just rather have Joe Burrow, a healthy Joe Burrow, by a smidge. Deshaun Watson. No thanks. And crazy enough, this has nothing to do with the fact that he's a terrible person. The Deshaun Watson trade may go down as the worst trade in the history of professional sports. Because not only did the Browns give this man $250 million guaranteed, he is playing objectively worse than Baker Mayfield, the guy that they shipped out so they could make room for Watson. I mean, he looks like a shell of himself. Not even a shell of, he looks like a shell of himself. I don't think he ever gets back to playing at an elite level. I think if he was going to, it would have happened by now. So no thanks. Stay off my team, especially with that contract. Lamar Jackson's going in the elite tier. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I think that anybody who thinks Lamar can't throw is brain dead. I still firmly believe that Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback. He belongs in the elite tier, but I do think he belongs a little bit below Burrow and Allen. But again, still a super talented dude who could produce an MVP season really anytime, and I wouldn't be shocked. Kenny Pickett. Now, this is a guy that a lot of people expected a lot more from this year, and I can't pin it all on him. Matt Canada is an absolute disaster of a human being. But I'm going to put Kenny in the you're kinda upset tier. I'm going to put him above Mac Jones. And that's the thing. You're kinda upset if he's your quarterback, if you're a Steelers fan right now, because you wanted to see more, right? But you're not like devastated because there's definitely something that could still be tapped into if they could just get that offense together. Anthony Richardson, I mean, you probably could have guessed what tier I'm going to put him in. He's going in high upside, but TBD. Has shown elite flashes throughout his rookie season, but now it seems like his rookie season has come to an end with a season-ending shoulder injury. I'm excited to see how his career plays out. I hope this shoulder thing isn't like a long-term thing that lingers throughout his career, because this was flashes of Cam Newton for the few games he was on the field. CJ Stroud, obviously fellow rookie in the AFC South. I'm going to put him in the same tier. Just done everything you could ask for a rookie QB up to this point. I mean, there have been Justin Herbert comparisons to Herbert's rookie year. He's looked awesome. I'm tempted to put him even a little higher than this based on what I've seen because he just looks like the real deal. But again, I got to let things play out. He's only played a handful of games in his career, so you never know what could happen, but definitely some encouraging signs so far. Ryan Tannehill. I hate to do this, but his days are numbered. Also suffered a recent injury and wasn't playing particularly well before that. The Titans are just heading for a rebuild, whether they like it or not, and Ryan Tannehill obviously does not fit into those plans. And I don't know how many teams are going to be vying for the services of a 35-year-old who hasn't been that good the last couple years. I like him more than Zach Wilson because obviously he's at least shown, sustained success in this league at some point, but I think it's coming to an end for old Tanny. Trevor Lawrence is a guy who, coming into this year, I figured I'd be able to put him in the elite tier by this point, but he just still hasn't shown enough for me to be able to put him on the same level as Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to put him next to Aaron Rodgers and almost elite. Funny to see these two guys together given the age discrepancy. I do think Trevor will get to that elite level eventually. He's just not there yet. Justin Herbert. Now, I don't care what anybody says. Justin Herbert is elite, and I'm actually going to put him above Lamar Jackson. A lot of people want to point to the Chargers' just general misfortune and bad coaching and all this stuff to try and discredit Justin Herbert, to which I say, watch the man play. I mean, he's a freak. He probably has the best arm in the league outside of Patrick Mahomes. He may have a better arm than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, even Mahomes said as much. Probably just being humble, but he said it. When it comes to being an elite quarterback, there's a level of just eye test that goes along with that, and he passes the eye test with flying colors. Jimmy Garoppolo. No thanks. A guy that has just shown no ability to succeed outside of the 49ers system. I think he is actively a downgrade from Derek Carr in Las Vegas. And there's just really no world where I would want Jimmy Garoppolo as my starting quarterback. I would rather cycle through guys who are completely terrible than get Jimmy G, who's like a slight baseline above terrible, I guess. I don't know. He's pretty close himself. I don't want Jimmy G as my quarterback. Moral of the story. Patrick Mahomes. I wonder what tier we're going to put him in. Yeah, the king gets to take his throne on the top of this tier list. He's Patrick Mahomes, man. I mean, he's already... I just got this book today from The Athletic where he's already listed in the top 100 NFL players of all time. I don't know if I agree with that, but it might be true. Like, if he retired today, he might be top 100. Just far and away the best quarterback in the game today. Not much else to say about it. Russell Wilson. Let Russ cook, baby. Okay, so the Broncos offense here in 2023 actually hasn't looked completely abysmal. The defense has, but that's a different story. Russ, though, it looks like Sean Payton might be getting a little juice out of the guy. Just a little bit back from what he had in Seattle. I mean, not even close to the level he was in Seattle, but there's some remnants maybe. I am going to put him in you're kinda upset because I don't think you're going to be like confident that he can win you a Super Bowl, regardless of what team's roster you put him on right now. I think the lows that we saw in 2022 were just too low to feel good about it, but I feel good enough to put him at the top of the you're kinda upset tier. All right, let's take a little halftime break. All this talking is making me hungry, which is great because like I said, this video is sponsored by Jack Link's Meat Snacks. Look, as a content creator, I end up editing at my desk for hours on end, several days a week, and when I'm hyper-focused like that, I don't want to cook. Jack Link's beef jerky is the perfect snack to get me through those times. It's made with protein to help me stay buff even on the days where I can't go to the gym because I have to roleplay as 20 different football players. So try Jack Link's Meat Snacks today. Ow. All right, back to the video. Dak Prescott, I think I'm going to put in the you're kinda upset tier as well. I'll say this, I would much rather have him than the rest of the guys in that tier right now, but Dak has not been the same guy since that ankle injury, and I want to be picky when it comes to quarterbacks. I just think you have the right to feel a little upset if he's your quarterback. Like, you want to aim for something just a little bit more. That's all it is. It's really nothing against Dak. I still think he's a good player and he'll probably be the Cowboys starter for the next several years. He's a little bit of a capped upside player at this point. Sam Howell, similar thing. We're just kind of ripping guys in this tier right now. I'll put him Probably above Russ and below Dak just because of the youth. We don't exactly know what Sam Howell's going to do. I could even make an argument to put him in the high upside but TBD tier. But for now, I'll put him in the you're kind of upset tier. I don't think Commanders fans have seen a ton to be like, yes, this is definitely our guy. There's been flashes, as there has been with a lot of quarterbacks. But again, I think you're just hoping for a little bit more than Sam Howell. Daniel Jones, let's just stack this tier up, baby. You are kind of upset if Daniel Jones is your quarterback. I'll put him, I guess, above Howell and below Prescott. I just don't think the guy can throw. Like, this is a guy who people talk about having a career year last year, a year that earned him a $40 million a year contract over 4 years. And he threw 15 touchdowns. Now, he did a ton on the ground. That's what earned him that money, but that's just not like a sustainable thing to pay a guy, $160 million for. That's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's not a guy that you should be assigning that much of your cap to. So honestly, I'm very upset if Daniel Jones is my quarterback, but I'll be nice and I'll put him in just you're kind of upset. Now, obviously, it's different if you're a great runner while also being a great passer, which is what Jalen Hurts is, which is why he is going in the elite tier. I'm going to put him above Justin Herbert and below Josh Allen. Honestly, he and Josh Allen have very similar skill sets, even though watching them play is very different. Josh Allen tries to run through and jump over guys when he runs, and Jalen's just kind of a little more elusive and, goes down when he should. He's a playmaker. He's got elite traits. He definitely belongs in the elite tier. Kirk Cousins, another guy who you could probably guess what tier he's going to go in. He's going to go in you're not upset. Just the poster boy for the quarterback that is slightly above average. And I think looking back now, that might be kind of an insult to Kirk. He might be even slightly above average. He's a guy that can win you some big games, but he's also a guy that can lose you some big games by, I don't know, throwing the ball short of the sticks on 4th down with the season on the line. And there's really no way to argue he should be higher than this, because are we really expecting Kirk to knock on the door of being elite this late in his career? I don't think so. Justin Fields, probably the most controversial quarterback in the NFL right now. You've got people with takes on Justin Fields anywhere from he could be a top 5 player to he should be out of the league by next year. I fall basically in the middle of that, which is why I'm going to put him in the middle of this tier list at high upside but TBD. And I know what you might be thinking, TBD, he's had several years in the league already and you put him in a tier with a couple of rookies. I know, but I've seen elite games from Justin Fields. They're not super common, I'll give you that, but none of the guys below him on this tier list have shown that kind of upside anytime recently. He's a guy that I just think has it in him to approach top 10 level. I just don't know if he's going to do it in Chicago or if he's going to do it at all. I still just think it's TBD for Justin Fields, and I'm willing to hear counter arguments on that because I get it, but I'm personally still a believer that there's another level he can tap into to where he can do that kind of elite stuff a little more consistently. Now, speaking of guys who have been in the league for a couple years, but we're still not sure what to expect from them, Jordan Love. I'm going to put him at the back end of the high upside but TBD category, mainly because the first few games we saw from him in his pseudo rookie year here in 2023, he actually looked pretty good. I mean, he tossed 3 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, and then it kind of came down a little bit. I don't think we're going to get a firm judgment on Jordan Love either way after this season because it's only his first season as a starter, which again brings up valid criticisms of the Packers sitting him for this long because they're going to have to make a decision on whether they want to sign him to a new contract pretty soon, even though they've only seen him for a few games. But yeah, I have to put him in high upside but TBD because again, I've seen some really good things out of Jordan Love. We just don't know how much he's going to be able to sustain it. It's too early for this guy in his 4th year in the NFL. Jared Goff, I'm going to put in you're not upset. I'm actually going to put him above Kirk Cousins, but below Tua. I just love what I've seen from Jared Goff with the Lions this year, captaining that team of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and David Montgomery, just good weapons around him, and he's used them masterfully. Again, talent-wise, he's definitely not on the level of those guys above him, Rodgers, Burrow, Allen, all those guys, but he's doing damn well with what he's got, and he has come a long way since his early years with the Rams. Very impressed by Jared Goff, definitely going in the you're not upset tier. I am a long-time Baker Mayfield fan, and he's actually having a pretty solid year with the Bucs, but I am going to put him in you're kind of upset. Again, you just don't feel great about your long-term prospects if Baker Mayfield is your quarterback, but he's a fun and good enough stopgap quarterback at the very least, and I hope he continues being a starter in the NFL for a long time. I just can't in good conscience put him any higher than this. Bryce Young as a rookie is also going to go in high upside but TBD. I'll probably put him toward the back just because he's gotten off to a much slower start than, his fellow rookies CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson, but it's way too early to judge him for really anything he's done on the field. You'd hope to see a better start, but it is what it is, and his weapons are super mid, other than Adam Thielen, who has apparently found the fountain of youth. Derek Carr, I'll put in you're kind of upset. Oh God, where do this has just become a mess of dudes. Where do I want to put you? I'll put him right here. This is a guy who I'm sure the Saints were hoping to see a little more from this year, but he's just not that great. Sometimes it be like that. Desmond Ridder might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. It feels like deja vu with the Falcons because we watched Marcus Mariota last last year just continue to stink it up, but then put up like kind of an okay game here and there, largely anchored by rushing production. But we knew he was bad, and so we were begging for them to try something new, and that something new was Desmond Ridder. And now after watching Desmond Ridder this year, we're like, oh, this guy stinks too. And so now we're just begging for Taylor Heinicke to come in, even though Heinicke's not an unknown like Ridder was. We kind of know what we're gonna get out of Heinicke, but Ridder, regardless, days are numbered as a starter. I mean, it has just been ugly 90% of the time. Josh Dobbs has actually played way better than he has any right to be playing. And I say that in an endearing way because I am rooting for him. And it's just like the Cardinals were this team we expected to be fully tanking this year, and Josh Dobbs was like, I'm at least going to put an entertaining product on the field. I'm still going to put him in days are numbered, albeit at the top of it. The Cardinals are probably going to move on, from both him and from Kyler and go get somebody in the draft. And I just don't see another team like confidently hitching their wagon to Dobbs next year. But with this performance, I think Josh Dobbs has essentially earned the right to be a backup quarterback in the NFL for as long as he wants. Like, he's earned that like Colt McCoy level tenure. We'll do the other Cardinal before Geno because continuity. Kyler Murray, I'm actually going to put in high upside but TBD. I know that might not make much sense, but it's a guy that we've seen elite play from, and we just don't know how well he's going to recover from injury. But if he recovers to like 90% of his previous form, I mean, I think he's definitely above the you're kind of upset tier. His dual threat ability makes him more dynamic than a lot of the guys down here. Like, Dak has lost a lot of his mobility after his ankle injury. Daniel Jones, like I said, can run, but he can't throw. So if Kyler can maintain sort of the combo of those two talents, then he should be above that tier. But until we see how well he recovers, we can't put him any higher than this. So TBD. Geno Smith and his wild career resurgence are going to go in the you're not upset tier, just below Kirk Cousins. He's a guy who honestly has one of the prettiest deep balls, just prettiest passes in the league. And I just think you're pretty content if he's your quarterback, if the rest of your team has good weapons. Brock Purdy also going in the you're not upset tier. There is a valid question of what he would look like if he didn't have, the perfect system around him, because I made all those criticisms of Jimmy G that I know are valid because I've seen how Jimmy G has played outside of San Francisco. So I'm not going to pretend that Brock Purdy is some crazy good, crazy elite talent when we've only seen him play in San Fran. I just know that he can captain that Niners offense better than Jimmy G ever did. I mean, he's hitting some much more big-time throws. He stays a lot more composed than Jimmy G did. So I'm going to put him in the you're not upset tier. I don't really expect him to ever go above or below this tier. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong, but this just kind of feels like where he's going to live, just kind of like how this is where Kirk Cousins has lived. And Matt Stafford, I am also going to put in that tier, so that's 3 straight you're not upsets. And I think I'm going to put him, I'm actually going to put him above Goff, and I'm going to put him above Tua. Yeah, come here, Tua. That one's a really close call and not a no-brainer for me by any means. I just like that Stafford has, won a Super Bowl, obviously, and has just made star receivers throughout his career. Like, some of the most productive wide receiver seasons in NFL history have been Calvin Johnson with Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp with Matthew Stafford, and then in Cooper Kupp's absence, he turned Puka Nacua into basically God himself. And obviously, this is not my pick if we're going for longevity, because Stafford is significantly older than Tua, but just for like how these quarterbacks stack up right now, I'm going to put him above Tua. Again, it is close, but that's where I'd slot him in. That'll do it. My official quarterback tier list. Let me know what you guys agree with, disagree with on this tier list. I'm sure you'll have plenty of thoughts, so leave them all down in the comments below. And be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.